So I made potato salad out of this. So there it is. And I'm going to talk about 007 on Her Majesty's Secret Service and Pacifiction.
Okay.
And I do have a poem to read today. So I guess I'll get started and then go through the DVD reviews. So this poem, written this morning, well, actually in the middle of the night when I finished watching it, August 17th, 2024, called On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I hadn't known Diana Rigg had been a Bond babe back in 1969. She sure was tall and just a bit too thin, but all in all, she really did look fine. How had I never known she'd played this part? Our Mrs. Peel, a would-be Mrs. Bond. She made each scene a lovely work of art, but after seeing both now, I'm more fond of her as the Avengers Mrs. Peel. I
think everyone would be that way, including George Lazenby, who was playing James Bond.
In the middle of a poem.
Oh, sorry.
I guess as Mrs. Bond, she's not some fling, but someone special. Still, I guess I feel disgusted that she's collared by a ring, especially by a womanizing guy. And Bond, a married man, that doesn't play. I guess that's why the writers made her die, but that makes her seem weaker anyway. She's memorable as Mrs. Bond, but I prefer remembering her as Emma Peel, the heroine, too strong to ever die, a female Bond, a feminist ideal.
Sorry about interrupting you. You should be complimented because what that means, folks, is when she's writing poetry in rhyme, it sounds like she's talking.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty smooth.
It sounds like she's talking. So there's no inversion. Very rare. Very rare. And I can only recall one case where it stood out, and I think it was intended. No words that she doesn't understand and that you don't understand. It's like she talks. And that is the ideal. Once you get that, if you got a huge vocabulary, then you can write the occasional poem where you can show off that vocabulary. But the most important thing is to write a poem the way people talk. Same thing if you make a distinction, between lyric poetry, stuff intended to be set to music, or composed or written to an already existing composition. Song lyrics should sound like people talk. At most like people think, but basically, if you want people to understand you the way you think or the way someone thinks, it had better be kind of like the way someone talks. Huh? That's a compliment, Paul. One of the best compliments I could ever come up with, because it was unintended.
Anyway, I know the meal isn't the healthiest meal in the world, and that Asiago artichoke dip doesn't make the best potato salad. It's kind of bland, honestly. It would be better with
That's what I like.
Okay. For James, it's fine, but for me, I would rather have a little bit of celery, some parsley.
I can handle those two things, yeah.
Yeah. That would be good. What else? And you'd probably like it with a little bit of green onion or chives.
Onions are really a good, healthy addition to almost anything, except for angel food cake or something like that.
Yeah. But I pretty much said all I had to say, the review in my poem. I liked this Bond. I did end up falling asleep at one point. I woke up and I'm like, oh no. And so I watched a bunch again. Because it is a bit long. Now, what does it say here? 142 minutes. So it's a bit long.
No, it says it's 3 DVDs. What's happening there?
No,
Are
it's
they-
2.
oh, 2,
But
sorry.
I didn't watch the other one. It's
Special
special
features.
features. Yeah, I just watched.
I think I'd be interested. Hopefully they got some interviews. I've read an interview with Diana,
Yeah.
Rigg, and she hated George Lazenby.
Oh, really?
And I'd never thought of her as being this unprofessional, but what she would do is eat onions before they had kissing scenes.
Really?
Yes.
You know, I could kind of tell that, like, I wasn't buying the, oh, she's so in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't buying that.
And you
But-
probably weren't buying, oh, he's so in love with her. No,
Yeah,
maybe
well-
he was, I don't know. It'd be hard not to, really,
Yeah.
the way she looked in the 60s.
Yeah. But, anyway, honestly, I don't know why she did this. I don't know why she agreed to be. She must have made a lot of money as a
Well,
Bond babe, but
I think she had just finished up the Avengers. She only lasted, I think, I was seeing somewhere 2 years in the Avengers. But it seems like you always seeing her in the repeats of the Avengers, the syndicated things, because those
I mean,
are the
I would
classics.
have rather seen her as Bond.
Well, that would have been interesting.
You know?
Now, we've seen some interesting Bonds. You know, like Alec
Yeah.
Guinness kind of played a parody of James Bond. There's a James Bond, Alec Guinness. Yeah, you're going, what? I could see that look on your face. It was kind of deadpan, but you couldn't believe it. You don't quite believe it, do you? Or is he the Pink Panther? I can't remember.
Anyway,
Anyway,
so
maybe he played both.
I enjoyed the movie. I thought the movie was entertaining. I mean, there's some silly things, whatever. But the writing really on these Bond movies is kind of ridiculous. There's like the whole part where Diana Rigg is playing somebody called Tracy, and Tracy's father in this is trying to encourage Bond to marry his daughter. So he's saying, I'll give you $1 million if you marry my daughter. And really Bond is like, oh, I really don't need money. I'm not that kind of, or whatever.
Plus,
but
I
really,
love onion-flavored kisses.
what he should have said was something like, surely you don't need to pay somebody $1 million to marry her off.
You're
'cause
pimping
she's
out your wife,
amazing.
your daughter.
You know, like, people would pay $1 million to marry her. But nobody said anything like that, and it's just kind of crazy, because was there anybody hotter at that time period?
Well, for
I
his
mean, she was-
gender, definitely not George Lazenby. He's kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess he's got a big chin. He's got one of those big dimples in the chin. So.
I don't know. He was okay as Bond. I didn't mind him as Bond at all. But I don't know why Diana Rigg was a Bond babe. That's all.
It doesn't make any
It
sense.
doesn't
I
make
think
sense
she
to her to-
needed some money or something like
I
that.
don't know. I mean, I realize everybody would want her to be a Bond babe, but it kind of goes against the whole Power Woman thing.
Well,
that
she
she
was
had going on,
the
and-
smarter one between her and John
And-
Steed.
Exactly.
She was the one that would wipe criminals out and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how realistic that was. Well, by comparison with John Steed, it was realistic, because that guy looked as though, if you took the suit off, he'd just fall apart. I love the way he wore the suits.
Yeah. Yeah, I preferred her in the Avengers, but this was a revelation. I hadn't realized, like I said in the poem, I hadn't realized that she'd been a Bond babe. So wow, is this ever worth watching, right? Just for that.
Maybe not for anything else.
No,
George
it
Lazenby
was
might.
entertaining.
Yeah, George Lazenby was maybe the only James Bond who lasted for only one movie. I don't think they bothered making another with him. So, me, it's hard to think of anyone being James Bond without being someone like Sean Connery. And Sean Connery is a reasonably good actor, but he has no range. he always plays Sean Connery. You get that impression.
Yeah. Oh
too.
yeah.
But you get the impression, like he's done interviews where this is in, I believe, in the 21st century. Where he said, well, it's kind of good for a woman to get a little bit of a slapping around or something like that.
Well, that's one thing that was kind of shocking in this. Like, at one point, I think it was Tracy, played by Greg. Tracy's dad punched her, and to knock her out so that she wouldn't go back and get killed trying to rescue Bond. But yeah, and I mean the talk in this, like her father was saying, she needs somebody to dominate her. And I just can't believe that Diana Rigg agreed to do this movie. Especially, did she not read the script? Or, I mean, she had to know what she was getting into with Bond. Anyway.
I don't know. It just seems kind of weird.
It does seem kind of weird.
But the other type of Bond
entertaining.
I expect very different. He's kind of like that smooth. He was kind of, I think, a Cockney originally, maybe from Tottenham. Roger Moore. I don't think that's his natural voice, but he looks always smooth. He looked great in a suit, and again, that's about all he can play. Like it's kind of like an arch James Bond, where he's kind of sending it up. It's like a parody of the original James Bond. But you know, Pierce Brosnan kind of looks the part, but he's neither of those. The most recent one that I can think of is that Scottish guy or whatever it is. He's kind of
what is
tough.
his name? Yeah, he is kind of tough.
But he just doesn't look dangerous like
No.
like Sean Connery did.
Yeah.
Is it something like Quaid? Does it start with a Q? I can't remember. And perhaps that's a good. I at least remember Pierce Brosnan's name. There was another guy, Timothy Dalton. I think he's Welsh. I think they liked having Celtic guys playing Bond because Connery's Scottish. I think Dalton, the name is English, but last name, I think it's Welsh. And then I think Craig. Is that Daniel Craig?
You're right, that is him.
So Craig, I think, is a Scottish name. And Pierce Brosnan is about as Irish looking, and the name is about as Irish as the last name as you can get. It comes from northeastern Ireland. Pierce Brosnan. Just south of the border with Northern. Anyway.
So, this one was from 1969, like I said.
Was it that late?
Yeah. And
Well, that isn't right after she quit Avengers. She had something else in between. Or nothing. Maybe she was desperate. I don't know. Can't see her being desperate.
no. Anyway, 2022. And this one has some blurbs on the back. Best film of the year, gorgeous new movie, suggests John le Carré by way of David Lynch, blah, blah, blah. And I was watching this, and I mean, you get some really nice scenery.
Is it about
French
spies?
Polynesian island of Tahiti.
Okay.
But it's not worth it.
Is
This
it
is
about
so
spying,
bad.
Then? What's it about? John le Carré suggests
It's
spying.
about nothing. It's about
there you go, folks.
absolutely boring. It's about boring you to death. I was sitting there and I'm like, how long? Because it's subtitles. So you have to sit there and read it. And honestly, I should have just said, that's it. I'm not going to bother. So I finally was like, well, how many minutes is this? 162. 162 minutes. And it is mind-numbing. It is so boring. You keep thinking, okay,
That's 2
there's
hours
got
and 40
to be,
minutes.
There's got to be a story here. Something's got to pull together to make me go, oh, this is why I was watching this and that and whatever. Who cares? One thing, like there was a leading androgynous person.
A leading role, a leading
yeah,
character.
in quite a prominent role, not the lead, but by any stretch. But that was interesting to see, because you don't see that. And
not in movies. I mean,
yeah.
David Bowie kind of tried that in
well, I
the early
suppose,
70s.
yes. But this, like, I could say, well, this person was a drag queen, but that wouldn't be really accurate. I wouldn't feel that I was being genuine that way, because although this person was wearing women's clothing, they were so androgynous looking and natural, you know, like not wearing makeup, not all fancy hair and everything, and just normal female clothing, and quite beautiful, you know, in a very androgynous way, which you don't see. You don't see that enough. You know, sometimes you'll see drag queens, they're all dolled up and whatever, but you don't see people just naturally androgynous. And so I actually enjoyed that, but that's the only thing I enjoyed about this movie. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. So,
from the other way, there in the 70s there was Grace Jones.
oh, you think she was androgynous?
Well, I mean, she'd sometimes have, wasn't it like buzz cuts here and then.
But she
stuff on
still
the-
looked feminine.
Did she act that way? I'm telling you, she.
Okay.
I think I'd rather talk to a drill sergeant or something like that.
Okay, maybe you're right. I don't know.
I found her.
Well, this person
Off-putting.
acted very feminine and had quite a feminine voice, like a naturally feminine, not put on, right? Like, yeah. So anyway, that's all I have, unless you have something else.
No, really. I just want to make clear, I just don't like drill sergeants. So when someone comes across like a drill sergeant, like someone 2 days ago in a business, that we were having to transact some business in. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I'm achy. I've been just running around. And I guess I have some time. I could read another poem. You want to hear another
Yeah,
one?
I think that'd be a good
Okay.
idea. I'll try not
Oh.
to interrupt this time, however much.
Well, this
I
one's
might
just
be
a
tempted.
silly one. I wrote this one. I decided, I'm going to go to sleep. And I laid down, and then I had this one. I started it in my head, and I thought, I guess I better write it down.